everything to do with equity and common law, the history of jurisprudence, the Freeman things, the secure party creditor stuff, all of these other things, everything you can imagine. I studied it for thousands of hours and I still couldn't quite get it. So I knew it was not right. So I threw it all out and said, well, what is right? And the only way I could do that was to experiment. One of the things I had learned about the creator's laws is that the way it works is you come up with some kind of a hypothesis, you go out and test that, you ask questions and you tear it apart and you prove or disprove how something is by your own experience. And the only reason we don't do that is because we're trying to avoid confronting our emotions, our fears, and everything else. The law, in terms of the rights we have as man and woman. So first of all, you don't have, the only rights you have are as man and woman. You don't have rights within a legal society. You have benefits and privileges as a person. And I'm not saying that it's wrong either to take benefits and privileges as of a legal society. Maybe there's a time where it's good to enter into a contract and receive a benefit or privilege, but you're going to give away some rights in exchange for benefits and privileges. That's what society is. But the problem is that we don't really know what our rights are, first of all. And the rights that we have, you have one right. So we don't have, it's not a right to freedom of speech and a right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness and all whatever other right we may think of. None of those are actual rights of man or woman. Man or woman has one right, and that's to his or her property. And therefore, the ability and right to express what the law is in regard to his or her property. Everything is property. Everything you see. So your body is your property. The land, the house that you live in, whether that be some property that you have, some rights you have in that property by way of a rental agreement, or whether you own it, everything is property. Your sons and daughters are your property. That's not to say they're slaves. In this context, we're saying property is when I take someone else's, complete interests as part of my own, and I take responsibility in that way. So, but that's the only ability we have to protect those in our care, is to claim them as our property. So that's exactly what we do. So everything, to see the world as everything is property. As I, a man or a woman, having property and the right and ability to set and express the law for that property, and to press claims against those of mankind who would trespass upon said property, whether or not acting in their own right or as some agent with fictitious title. It makes no difference. We strip away everything that's not real and not seen, and hold only man and woman to account for their trespasses. And the problem is that this is very difficult to do if you've not got straight with what I is, because we want to take a title. We want to take some kind of a, we will always want to take a title. We will always take something that system. We will always get trapped into something that system thinks it owns or expresses itself through. It's very difficult not to, until you get straight with your simple caveman dictionary of it, a few dozen simple words as man and woman do speak outside of those words that have been claimed and used and legislated for, and you get back to speaking as a caveman. It's not quantum grammar and all of these other silly tools that are out there for getting into this minutiae of so-called sovereignty. It's the opposite direction. Simplicity. I, man Greg, say you, woman Teresa, did wrong by way of whatever it is. I require remedy by way of this. In the next 7 days, say all herein be true, and we'll verify at open court. Nothing else. That's how your notice should be, like 3 or 4 lines. But can you, how grounded in you and your own emotions and calmness are you to be able to just not get pulled out of that and into discussing your story with people? because some people will always want to discuss your story. But does it matter? Does it matter? Is it material to the actual claim that you're making, or that you have, or the rights to your property? Does it matter how you felt about this, or who was affected emotionally? You know, it doesn't. What matters is the facts, what you can prove by way of evidence. And that's what the law supports. That's what the courts of certainly the countries in common law jurisdiction support, and everywhere to some extent or another. The law for mankind is relevant. What man or woman acting as an agent of the system, whether it's a police for the police or for a tax office or for anyone, what man or woman is willing to risk their own property, their own livelihood, their own everything, just to enforce an act, code, or statute of their employer? None. This is all it takes to change the world, is for us to stop looking to try and change the organs of society, and to tackle injustice, and to bring claims against the government or the prime minister or any offices or officers or protest or any of the things that are like, you can put 1 million people, there's 1 million people go to these protests. But if 0.1% of that, 0.01% of that, 100 of that million just sent a proper notice all to the man who at times acts as prime minister or governor of wherever, and for trespass by way of extortion or whatever the situation is, that will create change. That's why it's very simple. Mm-hmm. Because we're not dealing with agencies or organizations or government. We never have been dealing with those things. They have tricked us, or they've tricked you. You've allowed yourself to be tricked, more to the point, into believing that that's the case, or that there is some authority or agency with power. There is not, and there never has been. And this is not a concept. This is not something that you listen and say, yeah, but that's not really true. They do have power. They do have this. No, they don't. What they have is men and women who are willing to break the law to enforce legal codes, acts, and statutes. What is your boundaries? How are you going to find your own boundaries? What do you want to express? What do you consider to be trespass? What do you call an arrest? Is it an arrest? Well, I don't consider it an arrest, brother. I can call it trespass by way of unlawful confinement. By a man to a man. Everything's like, put a mask on, or we won't let you in this store. Oh, I see. Well, that sounds like trespass by way of extortion. Can you see? It's actually really simple as well. It's very, very clear and very simple. Look at the facts of each thing that's happening whilst you're in the situation and name it for what it is. Mm-hmm. Let other people run away. You don't need to send them packing. You don't need to put up a wall. So this is what people do. They want to then learn the law and their rights so they can set up walls and defenses against people. But that's their own fears. I say deal with all your own fears and then speak what is true and question what is not true. Mm-hmm. And then you won't need to put up any walls. Your aura will just expand out into the world, be an expression of love in action, challenging all the bullshit everywhere you go. And when you need to put forth your law, your proverbial no parking sign on your property, then fine. Yeah. Maybe you need to send a notice to the man who at times acts as Secretary of Health or Prime Minister, or maybe you need to do that once or twice. Maybe you need to put something on your actual property, or you need to send something to a tax office, or maybe you need to do something like that once or twice. But apart from that, mostly just feel everything and tell the truth and you'll get there.